Hey guys, just a very quick video on a new gadget called the Commodore 64 Mini. As you can see here, this is the setup. So I'll give you a close-up of the C64 and its little game controller. So here's the nice little kit. Keyboard doesn't work, but it does have an HDMI input and two USB ports. And this is the packaging it comes with, which I think is really quite nice actually. So let's have a quick look at the C64 and the way you control it. So here's the controller. It's quite a cheap design, but it'll work for, I guess, when you first start working with it. And you can see here there's various different options at the bottom, just using the controller to select it. And I'm going to take you into the settings, and in particular the system information. So this was the default firmware that was on it. So this was essentially February the 4th 2018, and what I want to do now is go and update to the latest firmware, which I've downloaded from the website. I'll put the description below it, but I'm just going to take you through some of the settings. So here are the languages that it'll actually support. So we've got English, German, Spanish, and a couple of others. And you can also adjust the way that the screen is represented as well. So you can mimic the old CRT or our old cathode ray tube TVs, or you can go for the most modern, up-to-date screen, which has no pixelation and no artifacts on it, which is the one I'm selecting here. So the games come across as crystal clear. So let me go and get a USB key, shut it down first, and then I'll plug the USB key in. So here's my USB key. It's got the firmware already loaded on it. This was a firmware which was released in December, so it's earlier this month, and it'll have some useful features inside it. So you can see here, just plug the USB key in, turn the power onto the console, and as you can see, there's three icons on the bottom. I'm now just going to go to the settings, going to go to firmware. And this time when we go into the system information, it'll say that it's seen a new firmware and can I apply that firmware. So just going to include the new firmware here. You can see the two different dates, the two different names, so I'm just going to apply. Very quick process. It reflashes obviously the firmware onto the device itself, and it's just quickly running through. Oh, and you can see the Christmas tree in the background there, so that gives you an idea. It's just after Christmas that I'm doing this update, as it's a Christmas present from the family. So I'm reminiscing here, obviously, with the C64. In fact, I didn't have a C64, I had a VIC-20, and I was always jealous of people who had a C64, so this is my chance to do it. You'll notice a new icon is there, so that's the USB icon. We'll come back to that later. Oh no, actually I'll take it in now. So you can see inside the USB key, and here you can actually use the different directories to load in other games that you can find on the internet. So there's the update. You can see it's taken the update, and it was the 19th of this month, so it's a fairly recent firmware update. And now what I'll do is I will plug in a, well, I'm taking it off the USB key, so you can see that it just disconnects from the screen, and I'm plugging in a Dell keyboard. And the idea here is I wanted to plug in the Dell keyboard so that I could use the keyboard in conjunction with the actual joystick control, because there are obviously some games which will require a full keyboard rather than a joystick control. So this is the first time I plugged it in, so I'm trying to figure out, do any of the keys work? Does it go backwards and forwards? You still need to use the joystick, it would appear, to actually navigate through the system. I'm just rebooting it to see if the USB keyboard needs to be found when you do a reboot. Doesn't seem to make any difference actually. So here's the reboot sequence coming up, and sort of probably trying to figure out, does the keyboard actually drive it? No, it doesn't. So I plug back in the joystick control, and then I just activate one of the games, and using one of those games I'm then able to control the functions of the game actually with inside the actual keyboard, which is what I was looking for. So now I'm plugging in the keyboard again, having realised that it's not actually, sorry, the joystick. So I've got the joystick and the keyboard in at the moment, and I will now just select a game, which is this first one. And I started off by using the game. The keyboard actually uses the numeric keypad, so the up and down arrow on the numeric keypad, rather than the up and down cursors that are actually on the Dell keyboard itself. And you can see now I'm starting to select it through the up and down arrows while I'm trying to work it out. And then I hit the enter key on that keypad as well, and that actually then starts the game off. And as I can't remember this game, I'm then just trying to have a play with the game itself. So this is now being controlled by the keyboard, realizing that the enter button and the space button can actually do stuff, and have a bit of a trial to see how this works. And it takes a bit of time to get used to, but it works out really well. So all in all, I'm pretty happy with the setup and the function by using the keyboard, and the new firmware works great. Allows you to obviously use the USB key to upload other games, so there seems to be quite a few other games actually uploaded onto various websites. I'll put a link in the description below, and you can just copy those onto the USB key and then go into the directory, and the c64 will try and load them. Some of them work really well. Some of them have a few challenges. I tried Jetpack and can't quite figure out how to get the Jetpack game to work. But I'll play around with those and see if I can give any tips and hints on the way the keyboard actually operates.